this injury that seemed to end the path in my life that I was going towards. And out of that, I had to see what else was there. And, at the time you don't see these things as blessings. You don't know. I mean, here was everything I'd done in my life up to that point was one thing. And now it seemed to be taken away from me. But out of that grew this other thing, this ability and desire to help other people, heal other people. And that led me into the career I have now.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Craig Zuckerman, who is the owner of Z-Line Fitness, where he helps people with injuries and post-surgery pain to heal themselves with a variety of techniques, which we will discuss in a moment. First, I'd like to invite you to visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com. You can listen to episodes, read synopses, see photos of my guests, a little bio on myself, and there's a donate button if you'd like to support the show. Much appreciated. You can also listen to the show on YouTube, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Add with Bob Nickman for YouTube. And there is the Exploding Human Facebook page. As I said, my guest today is Craig Zuckerman. Craig is the owner of Z-Line Fitness, and he has an interesting history, which we'll hear about, but he was a dancer, and he was injured, and that's how he got into finding ways to heal his own injuries and became interested in a variety of things, among them being Pilates, which is one of the techniques he uses in his clinic. He uses counter muscle balancing, cardio, weights, and stability, combining all these techniques to suit the individual. He also has worked with people that have Parkinson's disease, hip and knee replacements, and spinal injuries. He works with doctors at the Spine Center at Cedars-Sinai, as well as the Spine Institute in Santa Monica. He also trains corporate executives, Olympic athletes, and professional golfers, among many others. Great interview. Craig really knows his stuff, and I hope you get as much out of it as I did. This is Craig Zuckerman. Morning, Craig. I'm so glad you're here this morning. Sort of a fortuitous meeting. You met my wife in front of our house, I guess,
Yeah.
And started talking. And we realized that this would be a good guest for the Exploding Human podcast, you being the owner of Z-Line Fitness. And we're going to talk about what Z-Line does. But, you were telling me before we went on the air how you got started in fitness and rehab and helping people with body work and energy work. So I found that really interesting. Why don't you just for a second give a little background as to how you got into this stuff? Because it wasn't the first thing you were studying.
No, yeah, it wasn't. I mean, originally, and I went to college to be a performer, to be a dancer. But then with that came injuries, and I just kind of kept injuring myself over and over again, which actually led to my dance teacher and one of my big mentors getting me to study Pilates and to get a full certification in Pilates to kind of take care of my body. But what the other background of being in the arts in college gave me is an eye into another world of healing. I was lucky enough to have a Reiki artist as one of my teachers. We got to read books like The Peaceful Warrior and Celestine Prophecy and things that kind of opened my mind to all kinds of different forms of healing. And the fact that I had a almost catastrophic injury to my knee right before my last year in college, where I thought I was going to go off to New York and be a dancer and everything. I kind of became the guy in the book, The Peaceful Warrior, where I had this injury that seemed to end the path in my life that I was going towards. And out of that, I had to see what else was there. And, at the time you don't see these things as blessings, you don't know. I mean, here was everything I'd done in my life up to that point was one thing. And now it seemed to be taken away from me. But out of that grew this other thing, this ability and desire to help other people, heal other people. And that led me into the career I have now.
I had a very similar experience with Pilates changing my life, my health anyway, not my entire life, but I had a series of incidents every year where I guess the phrase people always use is my back went out.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't go out. It's still there. And, but I kept having these episodes where I would have to, lay on my back, ice up for 2-3 days and be really painful. And I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And I read a book called Mind Over Back Pain. And also, Mind Over Back Pain by, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it while we're talking. And the thing that he said, he goes, the pain is a lot greater than what's actually going on, that it feels much worse. And it feels like, and that most of it was caused by stress, which was a really interesting thing because I didn't really have any overt injuries that I knew of.
Sure.
And I remember thinking that's bullshit. So one day after I had read this book, it was Mind Over Back Pain and Overcoming Back Pain. He had 2 books. So I'm folding socks, you know how strenuous that can be. And I'm thinking about something very, stressful. I don't remember what it was. And all of a sudden, quote, my back went out. It went, and I'm on the floor on my knees and I'm having trouble breathing and it hurts. And I went, it is, a big part of it was mental. Mm-hmm. And, I realized I was going to need to do something. And I found out about Pilates. And what I learned about that was that my core strength was almost non-existent. And that I was not only tight in certain areas, but I was weak in the core. And I started to do those Pilates exercises with a really good instructor. And I was scared, I was scared to commit to the exercises because I didn't want to hurt myself again. And he kept saying, no, you're going to be fine. Just do this. And I haven't had since I started doing that, which was a long time ago, I haven't had one incident where my back seized up and it was in pain. So between the mental aspect and the core strengthening, which I do every day on my own now, but that is a big part of my life, that core strength. And so I'm talking a lot, but only because it was important. It was very impactful. So I totally love that you're doing this.
But what you said is exactly the thing that I think is essential to healing. And there are 3 aspects to it. And in your story, you actually pointed out the 3 things that I think are so critical, yet are oftentimes never put together in the rehab realm or in helping people get out of pain. And you listed them right off. You need proper exercises to help you out that are designed to help the actual area of injury, which is what the Pilates did for you. But you also need the knowledge and awareness of what things are causing it and how your emotional reflections that affects it. You can't take our emotions, our stress out of the equation. Is definitely a part of it. That's why people, their back's killing them, they go on vacation, their back felt great. They come back from vacation, their back's killing them, their back's killing them. It's a part of it. And the third aspect that you mentioned, but you didn't get into as much, was fear. Fear limits us in so many ways. And I think that is part of our journey in life, is overcoming fear, working through our fears. And that fear almost kept you from doing the Pilates. You weren't sure if you were doing right. And I think it's our job as healers, our job as physical therapists, rehab trainers, whatever you are, when you're in a situation where you're helping somebody, then you have to address the fear. And that doesn't mean talk to them about the fear necessarily, but recognize it, help them see things. And some of that comes from knowledge. If you understood what was actually happening in your body that created that pain in the first place, and what activities you're doing on a daily basis that exacerbate that pain and how to change them. Now you've removed that mask, you can see the wizard behind the curtain, and you now understand it. When you understand what that shadow is in the corner of the room, and it's just a coat on a hanger, it takes the fear out of it. So I feel as healers, part of our thing to help those in the journey of healing themselves is removing that mask, letting them understand, taking it down in a simple way. If I give you an MRI report with all these jumbled words, that's not helping you. But if I explain, hey, this is all this means, this radiculopathy, this just means there's this pain that radiates down your leg, and break it down so that you can calm your fears. And then I can construct a program that goes after those things that are out of whack. Because a lot of us, it's just imbalances. I mean, it's the same. Our entire life is a parallel of the imbalances in our lives that cause stress. Then our body has imbalances, musculature that reacts in the joints that causes the problem there. And it's kind of like a script for our lives to both live and change the stress in our lives and change the undue stresses on our body physically too, and put those two together.
That was a really great explanation. When people come to you, do they have primarily issues of, post-injury or post-surgery? Usually it's an injury of some kind, then a surgery.
Right.
And then it's still not working. So,
yeah. I mean, and like if you just got out of surgery, I always refer people to first go, use your insurance, do your physical therapy with that, because they have great expertise in these specific milestones to reach. However, I can still work with them at the same time, because what tends not to happen at the doctor's office or anywhere is, okay, how did you get in this injury in the first place?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, your disc herniated may have been what happened to you, but how? What things were you doing that made that happen? So, they're usually coming to me after they've either had surgery and they're back in pain, or they've been to a couple physical therapists and they're still in pain, or they've now been in pain for years and they notice it's getting worse and worse and worse and it's not getting better, and they've tried this, that, and the other, and it hasn't worked. So now they're coming to me, and it's all through referral based, because they see somebody that had this great pain and now they're better. And so that's where they're coming to me, and that's where these extra steps of looking at what's the fear and giving them the knowledge, as well as trying to search out and see what things are you doing that are causing this to continue to be a problem, and solving it is a big step in my process of healing people.
And how much is food a part of what you talk about with people? Because I know a lot of people, they eat like crap.
Yeah.
And sugar probably being the worst of all of it, but there's so many things that just don't make you feel good, especially after a certain age. Once you start getting up into your 30s and past, my experience is that food becomes more and more important.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's the building block of everything, and in two different ways, because your entire nervous system branches off of your gut. So if your gut isn't, and even beyond food, what about probiotics? What about the gut system as a whole? These are all factors and things that you can use as tools to better facilitate your healing. Meditation, there's so many things. But to stay on topic with food, if you don't have enough proteins, enough food in your body, how is your body going to rebuild the tissue to then heal itself? It can't. And that's a big problem. And I think, again, something that's missed, and honestly, something I wish I would point out more. I'm kind of lucky that most of my people do really good, eat organic foods, eat well. I do have some I do have some vegans or people that are just not eating enough food to really facilitate the healing process, or trying to get them to up that during the time that we're working. Because if you're building muscle, building muscle, you have to break it down. When you break it down, the tissue comes apart, but then has to rebuild, and then it grows. And in order to do that, it has to have protein chains to rebuild itself. And if you're not giving it that energy source, then you're going to have a problem. And the brain's not going to work well, and it affects your emotional systems as well as just the physical building blocks to rebuild. So yeah, you gotta have a good diet.
Yeah, and the thing that you said earlier was that balance is very important, and I find that to be true of just living period.
Everything.
If
Exactly.
if something is way out of balance, whether it's in diet, a vitamin, a mineral, some deficiency, a deficiency in your emotional life, a deficiency in work, a stress because of money. There's so many factors to maintaining balance that if you're not looking at that holistic picture, you may be missing the one piece of information that you need to mitigate the problem that a person's having.
True. And it is the challenge of our life, but we also have to watch stressing ourselves out to constantly be in balance, because the moments we are out of balance, we can learn. The moments we are out of balance, we see the effects, and then that allows us to look at, well, what weren't we doing, or what were we doing that may have created this imbalance? So I always look at it, even when we're missing it, there's something to learn there in which to better find our abilities to have that homeostasis, to find that balance. It's like I'm looking at the waves behind you, and I don't surf, but you have these waves, you have to wait for the right one. You have to then hit it the right way to really catch it and balance on it. And even when you don't, you can look at, okay, what could I have done differently? But then also sometimes it's just the waves. So you can't always get on yourself, but there are always something we can be doing to better ourselves.
I don't know why I just thought of this, but I was thinking, one of the most common problems I hear people having is sciatic pain.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. All the way down my left leg, it's killing me, and I can't. Right. It's hard to walk, and it's one of the most common things I hear. I know what that nerve is, but I don't really know generally what's the cause of that for so many people, and how I'm going to just get specific on that one thing, because I hear it so much.
And it's the number one thing I see too. So you have the sciatic nerve is a large nerve. I mean, if you look up the sciatic nerve online, you will see it's bigger than your thumb, and it's a large nerve. It branches from, so its origin, or where it comes from, are the last two vertebrae in your back. So your spine, where the spinal cord, there are these things that come out of the central cord coming down from your brain, and they come out, and then it's this nervous system, like a highway system that runs throughout your body. And it's how it sends signals to your muscles to work, to your organs, everything. And so the sciatic nerve starts right at the very base of your back. And because of that, our backs are mainly designed to have a curve to them, and a curve inward. And that curve inward holds these things called discs. So they're like little, jelly-filled bumpers between the bones that allow then our body to move and flex. But if there's too much pressure on those, they then can kind of bulge out. When you take a balloon and you squeeze it and it kind of bubbles out on one side?
Yeah.
That's what happens. And that bubble then pushes out on these nerves, this highway system that then comes out of our central spinal cord. And when there's pressure on there, it creates pain. Now, it can create pain right where the pressure is, or it can react all the way down the highway, which goes all the way down the back of your leg, all the way through to the big toe. And there's a secondary branch that comes off to the outside of the leg, down your calf, and kind of wraps to the outside. So why that is such a problem for us as human beings are several big reasons. Number one is if we have a rounded low back, so our back sticks backwards too much, then those discs will eventually push out against the nerves. Sitting, we constantly sit in this slouch. That's why sitting up straight, lumbar support is such a big thing, because it holds that spine into its curve to prevent those discs from pushing out and pushing on the nerves. But one of the things that I find is one of the biggest missed reasons for sciatica is it's not just the low back, it's the hips. So the hip bones are two separate bones. And if those bones are not stable, or they shift off, one lifts up more than the other, one rotates forward, that also can put pressure on where those nerves not only come out, but where they run through our butts and then down the leg. So muscles like the hamstring can compress that sciatic nerve if it's really tight, or the piriformis is another one known as fake sciatica, because the piriformis can press because the nerve runs under that. So these are muscles. Piriformis is in our butt, it's underneath our big butt muscles, and then the hamstring is the back of our legs. So those guys can create pressure. And this is where the whole method comes into play, because you got to then step back. why would those muscles be spasming or freaking out on us? Well, if we sit a lot, gravity pulls down on our spine and can cause those hip bones to start to separate apart. So that can create problems where these muscles then lock up trying to pull it back together. One of the number one causes of sciatica and pain that's easily to fix, so this is something good for your listeners to hear, is crossing your legs. If you always cross your right leg every day, all day when you cross your legs, that's going to stretch out the musculature on the right side because you're basically putting yourself in a prolonged stretch. It also gives you no base for your hips to be stable because one foot's up in the air. So your right hip will actually drop down. And that drop in that right hip can open up that disc with time to put pressure on the nerve. And so if I always do this repetitive stress of crossing my leg, it'll eventually cause for this instability in my hip bones, which then react to the musculature that tightens on one side on my back, which then creates the lower back to go out. So we feel our back go out like you felt when you got the socks, but it's not that just that specific instance. There was probably something over time that allowed this instability in your hips and low back to happen, that then it seemed like that was it, but that was really just the straw that broke the camel's back. So another huge one is having a wallet in your back pocket. If you have a wallet and you're sitting on that wallet every day and it's an inch thick, it lifts one hip bone up over the other. That one hip bone then pushes up the musculature and the bone structure in your lower back. And again, it's the last two vertebrae, the last two discs in our back that have this problem. And then it pushes on that one side. With time, that push blows the balloon out and you get the nerve reaction. And I've had a guy that had surgery. 6 months later after surgery, he was in such excruciating back pain again. And he literally told me, if I can't fix this, I don't think I can go on. And we did the exercises and we worked them every day and he worked really hard. And every time at the end of our session, we'd do stretching and we'd hear this loud bang. And it was his hip joint popping back into place. But every time he came in, his hip joint was back out of place. I'm like, man, what is going on? And we talked through everything. Then one day he comes in, and he was late from work, so he was in his work clothes. He turns around, and I can see burned into his back pocket this imprint of his wallet. And he pulls the wallet out, and it's like 2 inches thick. And I'm like, do you sit on this every day? He goes, yeah, I drive to work. I sit at work. I'm like, oh my God. So it didn't matter that he had surgery. Our exercises were just barely keeping the wheels on the bus because this thing was there. The second we turned it out, with every week, he noticed pain reduction. He's been now a client of me for 7 years, has been completely out of pain. He's like, man, so I probably never even needed that surgery. I just took my dang wallet out of my pocket. And I'm like, yeah. So this is where the knowledge base comes in and having this and learning these things. And I put all this in my book too, so that people can have the most common things I see. I throw it on my YouTube channel just to help people see these things and maybe go, oh man, what if this little thing is the reason I'm having sciatica or having a back problem now?
That's amazing. Let's say the name of your book and your YouTube channel so people can come and.
So the book is called The Office Effect. And the reason I called it that is because it's the effect of sitting in front of a desk in an office. But now, of course, with everything we've been through, it can be sitting at home. I mean, man, these 20-year-olds that are like, oh, I watched your video on sitting in bed. Now I know why my back's killing us. Because, sitting on the couch and sitting in the bed's a new thing. But all of it's work and what structurally you're doing at work and how to solve it. So it goes through the ergonomics and it also goes through the exercises that help. But it's called The Office Effect. And then I also have my YouTube channels is Z-Line Fitness on YouTube. And that has, I try and put out videos as much as possible to have the most, the things in fact, that guy's story is one of the stories on there and a surprising thing that may be causing your sciatica.
So what are some of the techniques that you use to help people besides Pilates? Do you use electricity, ice, acupuncture? I don't know. There's so many different techniques, body work of different sorts.
And I've been lucky because being in the rehab clinic, I got to see tons of it and being through it myself. So there's techniques. I mean, I get people that come here like, wait, this isn't really Pilates. And I'm like, yeah, no, because there's a lot of things that Pilates does that isn't great for many low back injuries. So I use, basic physical therapy techniques that I've learned over the years. I do some massage work. And with that, and the energy work is interesting because I do use energy work, Reiki energy type thing, but not in the sense that I'm a Reiki artist and we're going to come and do this healing thing. I mean, I do have some people that that's all they want me to do, but I just use it as creating a place where they feel the energy and they feel that commitment to them and they feel that openness. I mean, this may not seem like a technique, but listening to my client and trusting in what their input they're getting and what they're saying, because a lot of people don't trust themselves. Like, I feel like I should be doing this. And I'm like, no, that's you should be listening to that. And trusting them and being very honest and open with them and explaining things. I don't like having that wall that some people, doctors or something have, because I feel if they see my pain and they understand what I've been through, then they will be there with me and they know I'm there with them. So that may not be a technique, but that I think is something I really like to bring to the table. But besides the Pilates and working with, I use thumpers, I use kinesio tape. I use anything I can, or research that I may find of something new that I've learned about that may be great. I don't use the E-stem and the stuff that physical therapists use all the time. And I kind of go a different way. I use my own tapping techniques to wake up the muscle and things of that nature to get them awake and aware of what they should be using, and showing them the muscles, explaining things to them, explanation and getting them knowledgeable on what we're doing and why are part of those techniques. But yeah, Pilates is my base. I have 2 reformers in here, combo tables. That's the main thing I use, but I use stability devices and the idea that every single time we must change what we're doing, what exercises we're using, because the brain will start to stagnate and it will start to cheat. It loves to cheat. It doesn't like to work. And also I need to constantly change our programs. That's why I'm very different than physical therapy, where let's do 3 sets of this every time you come. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying mine's different. Because I'm looking at life doesn't come at you at 3 sets of the same movement every day. Life comes at you from every different angle possible. And so any way I can create different angles of force with one leg forward, one leg out, one leg back, kneeling, standing, I change it every single time so that your body has to constantly learn how to coordinate that core strength and the rest of the physicality and the musculature, connect it to your brain, wake up those neural paths to get it all to work together.
That's an issue for me because I do the same routine every day. I do it alone, so I'm familiar with what I do, and it seems to work, but I don't change it up because I just don't know what to do other than what I've kind of found worked, which is a series of stretches and core work and different things that I've figured out over time. But where would somebody look? Probably your channel to find new exercises, huh?
Yeah, but there's also little things you can do. So with any exercise you are doing, here are just some simple things you can do to make your brain have to wake up again. Doing a held. So let's just take a basic crunch, for instance. We're used to doing basic crunches. But if you held that crunch instead of just pulsating through it, if a lot of the way we do, I have this thing called the perfect crunch, because the way I do crunches is kind of different than you did them in gym class. So you'd have to kind of check that. And I have that on the YouTube channel and in the book, but it's a constant work where the muscles there's no lie down, rest, then crunching your abs, lie down, rest, crunching your abs. So it's kind of, you stay up a little bit and constantly work the muscles. So when you hold a position, that can create that. And it's a change. Doing smaller ranged pulses can be a change. You can say you're doing a crunch, have one leg up in the air while you're doing it, then switch to the other leg up in the air. Just little things like that, whether you're doing pulses, holds, or altering which foot is in front or in back, depending on your type of exercises, those little changes, or do your exercises in reverse order from what you've been doing them. Anything like that can wake up your brain and start new neural pathways of understanding how this all connects together in your body.
I never even thought of going the other direction, doing the stuff I do at the end, at the beginning. Never even thought. It's so obvious when you say it.
There's been something I've found in the 20 plus years that I've been doing this. It seems to be like the special sauce to get things to work. We're talking about balance, right? Balance has been a theme you and I have talked about here this whole time. I call this counter muscle balancing. And that's the idea of, if I'm going to work something in my body, whatever musculature I'm working, whatever joints it's attached to, I need to do the opposite. I need to balance it out. So if I'm going to do a crunch, and this is even scientifically proven, by the way, if you do a bunch of crunches, if you do like 200 crunches every day, you're actually going to make your lower back worse, which is kind of crazy. You're like, wait, but that's core. No, your core isn't just your six pack and your abs. It's also your back. It's 360 degrees around your waistline. So you've got to do a crunch, but then you have to do what's called an extension, what I call ski jump, lying on your stomach and just lifting your chest off the ground to make the lower back, the whole back muscles work. So now you've worked the front abs and the back muscles too. So you've made your body go in both directions. Then there's also sides. You have to do side bends and then rotations, rotating to both sides in your core. All those are all the motions of that lower spine. And if you don't do all of those, then you may be creating more instability. And what's even more amazing is when you do all those together, the body goes, oh, wait, now I'm not just thinking about my six pack. I've got the obliques over here. I got all these other muscles, all these other things working for me. Cool. I'm going to relax this thing that's stressed out. I'm going to relax this. So I find people, you don't need to stretch all the time. If you just have a balance in your musculature, then these other muscles won't be freaking out and tightening up because they're stressing out, trying to balance things out, because you're actually not in balance because you haven't been doing a balanced workout. So whatever muscle you do, if you're going to do a curl, bicep, do a tricep, go the opposite direction. Look at your workout, look at the motion of your body, and think of all the other ways in motion it can go, and do an exercise that creates the opposite motion against the resistance. Make sense?
It makes sense. And I'm so happy that I do that. I actually do that.
And that's probably why you've been doing so great so long.
I guess so. I feel good.
Hey, that's the key.
I'm always interested in when people are getting body work of any kind or doing anything that's new, if there's an emotional release that you see in your work, whether it's, yelling something, dispersing energy that way, crying, involuntary, body movements based on a release of tension. Do you see that in your work, or am I just?
Absolutely. Yeah. At one point, when we first moved, I actually had my studio for temporary was inside our house. We had a little condo, and people would come down the stairs and they're crying and like, I'm so sorry. My mom was like, it happens all the time. I really see it, somebody who has been in trauma where their injury has reoccurred within a short period of time, like a 6-month, because that builds on the fears. And so I feel, and I personally experienced this, I don't know if you have that, if the fears can get trapped within our musculature. Like I look at our body is almost like an infant. It's a small child and it can hold on to things and it can not know really what's going on. And we got to work it through that. And so if we start to exercise or stretch, or especially if you're doing physical, like manipulation, meaning like massage work, rolfing, and even energy work, when those muscles start to move, you can have a release of whatever's built up or stored in there, the fears. And I think those need to sometimes be addressed. Sometimes your body just needs to go through it. And you just need to experience it, and the body knows what to do by releasing that. It just needs to get out. And it doesn't always need to be talked about. But there can be some things, like what I find is when I have one of those releases that comes out of an exercise, I look at them, what is my body telling me? Like a good story of this is, I remember when I was mad at, my girlfriend, and I was like, because something happened with pissed off, and I was doing push-ups and I was all mad. And I was thinking about all the bad things during our workouts. And then I injured my pec muscles, like, it was killing me. And then I went and got body work, and I was getting the body work. And all of a sudden it brought up the memory of all these things that went wrong in my relationship, because I was storing them in my body when I was doing these exercises. And of course it failed. I was putting anger, hate, jealousy, all this crap into my body, and my body, like the small child, was hearing it, like the kid around the corner listening to you fight as a couple, and that child hears that and stores that in, and it doesn't really know what it's processing, and so it gets these emotions it doesn't know what to do with. And your body is the same way. And so I find that, I know when I do energy work on people, and I'm sitting there just with laying hands on, so where I'm not doing like intense pressure, I feel there's this thing where I'm talking to the body. I'm not literally talking, but I'm inside. There's this communication of it's okay. Like if I was seeing a dog that was scared in a corner and trying to let it know that it's okay. And it's wild as I work with this energy and letting the body know it's okay, do what you need to do. It all of a sudden it just melts. And it's this amazing feeling when it lets go. And it's this crazy connection. And then I have clients go, this makes no sense. You're doing nothing. You just have your hands sitting there. Why all of a sudden do I feel better? Why does this not hurt? And it's because there are these tensions and things stored. And so I think, again, what I was telling you earlier about when people come into my studio, having this positive space, setting the place up with my energy. There's another great thing that acting told me. You don't go on stage. If you just lost your job working at, TechSmart and you come in and your character is this happy character, you can't come on stage being all pissed off. You have to let it go at the door. And that was a beautiful thing that I learned and have continued to use, because you have to let that go. Because I got to be in a space where I'm letting in love and loving energy, and I can't be connected to any of the things that go on in my day, and I have to let that go to come in. And same thing, if you're going to heal your body, you can use it, one, as let that go and pull in that positive energy when you're doing your healing work, you're doing your exercises, and two, watch out that you're not storing negativity there. Don't say, this is my bad need. No, it's not your bad need. Your body's not against you. Your body doesn't create pain because it's like, I'm going to hurt you. No, it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to make you aware of something. And that something could be that you just banged it against a wall, or like in your case, something else emotional going on. Once you have an injury, your body knows it. Once you actually injured something, then anytime you have an emotional thing going on, your body is going to start hurting, because it knows that's the one thing that makes you take care of it. So now if you have this emotional struggle happening in your life, your body wants you to take care of it. And all it knows to do is then make your knee start throbbing and hurting, because then at least you'll take care of that, hopefully. But what do? Oh, my bad knee. Damn, my knee's hurting again. What the stupid? No. So anytime somebody says, oh, that's my bad knee, I'm like, no. It's your challenge need, and it needs your knee, and it needs your help. Help it. Give it some help. It's a child. It needs your support. So that's all a part of it.
I always like that expression, the body never lies, because it can't. We lie, we make stuff up, we're in denial, we do all that, but the body will not do that. It will give you signals. And you reminded me of a book that was super amazing to me. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. You've probably read it.
Yeah. We had to read that in college too.
Yeah. Great book. And it's about trauma. Mm-hmm. And how it lives in the body and then gets reactivated by new stimulus, but it reacts at the same level as the original trauma, or it can.
Right.
And that's the thing, when something's off, the part that's been already damaged in some way or compromised, that's the first part that you feel, at least for me.
You're right. And it'll go to whatever that thing is that slows you down. Just like when we get sick, when we finally have a break. I will challenge, though, the body never lies, and only on that, because it's not necessarily the body, it's our brain lying to us. Because many times we will have pain in our knee, but they'll do neural conduction tests and find there's absolutely no signal neurologically coming from the knee to the brain saying something's wrong. Because there's not actually anything wrong there. Sornos, is that the book? He's the doctor.
Yeah, John Sarno.
John Sarnos. Yeah. There we go.
Sarno.
I knew it would come to Sarno, because he has this incredible 80 some odd % success rate. Now there's places all over the country that have popped up that deal with this emotional connection, because there's people that have gone blind, people that have severe injuries, but there's nothing actually injured. And that's where the mind comes to play. And that's, again, we have to see in rehab the baby steps of progression. If we're not seeing that, I know I was in pain every day, 10 hours a day, but this week I was in pain only 5 hours a day. And the next week I was in pain every other day. If we don't see that progress, our brain doesn't. And our brain is an energy efficient thing that will eventually go, well, I'm sick of all these signals and processing them. I'm going to create a neurological loop that this pain exists when it doesn't even exist. And then it gets stuck there. And so again, and I feel it's wrong that we don't always address this in rehab, and we need to. And I think this is where his book is amazing, that it says, hey, let's look at that first, in fact, and let's look at mentally, if we don't start solving these issues, our brain just attaches onto these things and creates pain where it doesn't exist, creates problems where they don't exist.
That was the guy that wrote those 2 books I mentioned. Mm-hmm. I don't know where he is or how old he is or what he's doing now.
I believe he's passed away.
Has he? Yeah, that was an amazing. The change. That was a life-changing idea.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, and I get it's funny because I get people. I'm like I read his book and I did his book, but I'm still in pain. Yeah, because if you step in front of a bus, you can imagine all you want that you feel good. It's going to hurt. So there is still the physical aspect that we live in physical bodies. But if we could combine the mental, emotional, and physical and work at it as a whole, man, you've got so many more tools to work with it, which to truly heal.
You mentioned very briefly Rolfing, which is, we have a connection to a Rolfer that we both know, Benjamin Shield, who's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I remember going to him decades ago for I think it was 9 or 10 sessions just to see what was, the
10-session Rolfing series.
It's very deep body work. And a lot of people think it's about getting hurt, and it isn't. It is a little bit at first when when they're running down, when he's running down a muscle and stretching it or whatever that is going on. It hurts, but it doesn't hurt in a bad way. It hurts like something is being released.
Right.
And I remember him going through the muscles between my ribs or whatever's in there. What's between the ribs, like whatever is there, with his elbow. And when I walked out, my chest felt like it was twice as big. I was getting more oxygen. I felt unbelievable that how many years I was tight in my chest, that work opened it up. It was it was an incredible experience. I'd never had anything like that. I was like, wow, what I did probably mentally to my body physically is what it felt like. Like, why were you holding yourself so tight in the chest area, which is an emotional area? It's where your heart is and your throat, where a lot of emotions get stored. And oh man, that feeling of walking down the street with an expanded lung capacity was one of the most incredible feelings I've ever had.
Just kind of explain what's going on there. Because if you don't move your diaphragm, where we store fear, we tense our diaphragm, that our rib cage doesn't move, and anywhere we have stress to the body. And stress can be physical. If I were to punch you in the arm, the reaction of that creates certain things in our body where calcifications happen and tissue starts to bind in a protective fashion. And if things don't move, slowly the body will calcify, will harden around joints and muscles to then prevent them from moving. Conversely, if I hold my arm out straight every day, all day, my body hates using the muscles. That's a lot of energy to hold my arm out straight. So it will start to create a webbing of material that then binds that arm into that position so it can hold there without me having to physically waste energy on muscles. And that is fascial tissue. So fascial tissue is what we're really starting to understand a lot about, where Rolfing comes in as a major player. What happens is fascial tissue, a chicken breast, you have that skin over chicken breast and it can move around all blobby-like.
Yeah.
But then you notice there's parts of chicken breast where then it's like really tough and you're like, and you have to grind through it. That's where the fascial tissue, instead of being in a nice linear move fashion so it can stretch and bend and move, has become like crosses and become a very binding tension material that can't move. And that's what happened in your chest. And that can happen anywhere in the body. And these Rolfers go in and break that tissue down, and so that it dissipates. And it's been a very controversial thing for a long time because there's really no way to prove without cutting you open and seeing inside, like, okay, let's see, I see the tissue there. Let's stitch him back up. And now let's see what happens after he does it. It's hard to say with science, this is actually doing something, but science has finally caught on. I just had surgery to repair a hernia. And, the doctor's like, you have to massage this entire wound, get into it and massage it for the next 2 to 5 months. And that was a beautiful thing to hear. And that's what you're hearing now, because they're realizing this fascial tissue, trauma, cutting into the body, trauma, sewing, trauma, putting something in, the body starts to isolate that and creates this tissue over it. And if we don't break that down, then we're going to have a very stiff, immovable object like your lungs that then prohibit you from being able to move properly. And it just gets worse with time. So Rolfing is a 10-part series. They go through every part of the body to release that entire chain, that entire system from your heel. Because believe it or not, these things that create, they're called fascial trains, has been a coined phrase. And that's why I know a good healer. They have this book, the fascial trains of the bodies in their studio, because and Ida Ralph was big on this, who started Rolfing. Ida Rolf, not Ralph, because it started to show, because it was a perplexion to me when I first started in Pilates. So there's something that didn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, I know this muscle, the pec muscle, goes from here to here, but there seems to be something that's pulling from the guy's right shoulder all the way down to their left hip. There's no muscle that goes across the shoulder to the hip. What is going on? I was so confused. And this book opened that up. And it's the idea that, gravity is one of the biggest things we're against. So if I'm standing and I'm leaning to my right, my body has to keep me from falling over. So it, again, doesn't want to work all these muscles that have to hold me from falling over. So it slowly, over time, step by step, inch by inch, it starts to create this tissue like a seatbelt that goes from my shoulder all the way across to my hip to hold me in that position and keep me from tipping over. But then if I do stand up straight, you would notice my right shoulder would be down, because that tissue is binding like that seatbelt and holds me in that position. And Rolfing breaks all that tissue back down so it can reset your body. So then if you do the good, proper exercises and work, then you keep your body stable. So it's a great tool, especially in the beginning of rehab, to release that fascial tissue that's built up and give them more level playing ground to people like me and other people that are then doing the work to stabilize your musculature moving forward.
Now that you just talked about massaging after a hernia surgery, which I had 20 years ago, they never told me to do that. I never even entered my mind to do that. So
right.
I have never massaged whatever that mesh they put in there.
Yeah. And now if you do a back bend, you can probably still feel a pull in that area.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I can feel that area if I lift something heavy, or I don't push it too hard, but that was not a fun time.
No, yeah, I just had it last Friday, so it's been 10 days, and it's not a fun recovery. It's a very, especially with what I have to do every day, and training people and exercises, I got to be really cautious to.
Well, sure, and they make it seem like it's you'll be back up and around in 2-3 days, and I was not. I was sore for weeks, yeah. And walking very gingerly, all kinds of sensitivity to being cut. I'm not good with that stuff. I don't recommend surgery unless it's absolutely necessary, and you can't really repair a hernia with anything else other than surgery, from what I gathered.
Yeah,
I tried other stuff first, and it just. Finally, I was going to a osteopath, and he goes, "I can't fix this. I can't.
Yeah,
I can make it a little better, but you need to get the surgery."
But what you can do, and what I did, and what I do for any surgery, is I prepare my body. So the days and weeks before, I do little meditations, not sitting there. I don't have to get into this, total Om state, but I breathe and I talk my body through. Hey, this is what's going to happen. This guy who I trust and I've been told to trust, I talk my body, this is what's going to happen. They're going to cut here. It's to help you. And I imagine it, I visualize it, and I visualize it healing. And then after the surgery, I sit there and pull in, a color, a light that's healing to me. I just imagine the tissue growing over it and healing itself. And I found, I went in I got surgery on Friday. I went on Wednesday with the doctor. I had no bruising and I had no swelling. And I really believe, and this is the second surgery that I've really worked that with, that if you prepare the body, and again, because it doesn't know, all it knows is this thing's cutting into it and it's freaking out. And it's like, And
Hey.
it's tightening up and like, hey, it never really knows what's going on. And I feel if we can prep it and talk to it again, that like that child, explain, hey, this is what's going on. It's okay. We're just doing this. It's good. It's good that they're about to stick a needle and give you a shot. No, but to let it know. And then afterwards, do your energy work, do your healing work. And even if you're not into that stuff, just imagine happiness there, healing there, whatever that means to you. I think you can go a long way to helping your body heal.
I also took a lot of high concentrated arnica. That was helpful to me. Whether that was placebo or not, it seemed to work pretty well.
Hit it from all sides, mentally, emotionally, physically, dietary. Do it. That's the best way to heal. Just use as much of the tools as you got.
Let's talk about water for a second, because I forget to drink water. I don't love it.
Big water bottle over here.
Yeah,
Yes.
And I know a number of people that say to me, I don't like to drink water. I don't like it. And I wonder why that is. My mother didn't like the taste of water. It was a very odd thing that she goes, I don't like it. It makes me nauseous. That's what she used to say.
It's funny. And because it makes, I can have the same effects. I will have this effect where it kind of makes me nauseous at first. And I think it's the weirdest thing that can actually happen. But look, I can only, there's a lot of debates over whether water is good for you, or do you really need that much, or you get it out of your food and all that. And I've read all these different kinds of research, but so all I can say is speaking from my own experience. I've had a problem with an autoimmune disease, psoriasis. And, speaking of healers, I went to a channeler, someone who then, this may get too woo-woo-y for people, but they kind of give you information. It's almost like a psychic, but different, on a different plane. And in this reading, this person said, you need to drink more water, which I giggled at. Like, really, this all empowering knowledge is going to tell me to get rid of this thing that I've been to all these doctors about and had for all these years. I need to drink more water. So I do it. I up my water intake. In fact, I bought these big bottles, 40-ounce bottles, that are see-through, that I can visually see. I have to drink this. Then it gives me a cure. And I sit it right in front of me, in front of the TV screen that I have, that I work with all my clients on. It's in eyesight, so I know to drink it. And it's been the best way to do it, because I can't do it. I have to force myself. I have to see it there. And 90% of my psoriasis went away. 90% of my really more, like 100% of abdominal conditions, problems, stress I had, I slept better, like noticeably better. Like, I was blown away by just drinking 40 ounces of water, making sure I at least, very, very least, get 40 ounces of water, try to get it more towards 80 a day. What it did for my body it was astounding. And that was my personal experience. My wife had a very similar experience. And so, be that as may, and I do have like a water purifier, and it ionizes and oxygenates the water too. And, I don't know if that has anything special. There's debates on that, alkalinity, but, again, I'm trying to use all the tools I've read about and give my body the best chance it has to do the best job it can. And yeah, I find it amazing. But if I don't have that bottle, and like, if I forget it, or I put it somewhere else, I'll come inside at the end of the night and I've literally not drank a single drop of water, and I can feel it. And it's so, yeah, I'm with you, but I know it's good for me. I know it has good results. So I do something to give my body the best advantage to drink it. Set it in front of me, give myself a see-through bottle with the amount of water I need to drink in that day, so I can visually see my goal.
I've never brought up water intake on any of my podcasts. I don't know what made me want to just, when I was talking to you, I go, I got to ask him about water. Not because you were drinking water either, because other people have drank water, but I don't know. I felt like that had to get out there. That was information that people, it's so simple, and it's what we're made of, I guess, mostly water and some chemicals. And it makes sense, but I almost never talk about it.
Well, and what's cool about it, you see that, for me, there's so many things we do that we don't know if it's doing anything. For me, and I ask all of your listeners, just give it a shot, and they say like half your body weight in ounces if you're not sweating. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I'm doing, I weigh like $155, and I'm doing at 40 ounces of straight water, but I also drink coffee. If you drink it every day, that's water. Tea, that's water. If you're consistent with it. So you will see the results. You'll feel it. You'll notice it. Your skin, giving blood. Like I never, they're like, oh, you have rolling veins. I hated going in to give blood in any reason because it was a nightmare. And now that I drink water, easy peasy. Instantly, no, I've never had the problems I had before. I mean, there's so many aspects of my life. Like the two greatest things I've changed is water and finding out what I'm allergic to and changing my allergies in my diet. Those two things have been the greatest changes as far as something I can do besides meditation, obviously, which is a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode, which I've done a few on.
Oh, yeah,
but it's a big part of my life too. So I do that every day. So that's part of it. I want to, thank you for doing the show. Let's plug your business and how people can get a hold of you and your YouTube channel and your book.
So my book, you can find it. I have the original version of it. The first edition is on Amazon if you like a hard copy. Just look up The Office Effect, Craig Zuckerman. And then I have a new version I made that's a pure digital version that you can just download and you can view it on your computer, phone, tablet, whatever you like. Although it has lots of pictures, so it may not be the best thing to look at on your phone. But that you can find on my website at zlinefitness.com. So it says ZLINEFITNESS.com. And that's where you can find that. I also have the book broken down into two other parts if you just like smaller bites, where it just has the ergonomics. So you just learn about how to set up your desk, and just has the exercise series, because I have this specific exercise series, like for your lower back. I have a series of these exercises. It's only like 10 exercises, takes you like 7 minutes to do, but it's kind of like the golden butter. I've tried many different variations over the last 20 years, and it just always comes back to this. This is what I use to keep my back from falling apart. This is what I use with my back falls apart. This is what my wife uses. This is what I have for my clients. This is what people are like, I can't believe that just doing these, 10 exercises and I'm out of pain. This is crazy, but it is, and it works. And that lower body series is in the book, and it's also in my 10-minute relief book that just has the exercises in it to get you out of pain in 10 minutes. And that's all for digital download on my website. And then the YouTube channel is this Z-Line Fitness. And if you go to Z-Line Fitness, you'll see me there. You'll see my face and my glasses. And you'll see, I have about a little over 50 videos covering everything for like the best way to do abs, to how to deal with arthritis, runner's pain in your knee, and a lot of back issues, which tend to be a big thing. So there's a good resource. And if you ask me questions, I tend to get around to them. And then on my website, you can also book a session with me. So I have in-studio sessions right now. I know with COVID, it's very, very COVID conscious, because unfortunately I did have somebody pass away early on. So I have a very ventilated, wear a mask kind of situation in my studio. And I ask that people are vaccinated, but you can see me in studio, and you can make bookings online. I have a whole online appointment system that you can book online. I can also do video sessions. I've been doing that this whole time. I've got a big 43-inch screen, so I can see everything that's going on. And so I can work with you as far as exercises go and everything online. And I can also just do a consultation if you just want to ask questions about your home setup on your desk, or just some problems you're having and you need some questions answered. I'm there. My schedule is a little crazy, a little full, but I do have a wonderful waitlist system that will send out in the instant I have an opening during a time you put on your waitlist. So that system's been great. I've worked with this company to get that going. And so anything that pops open, I can usually help you out pretty within, the week.
That's amazing. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
And thank you for having me. There's these weird serendipities that just kind of happen, but they put you in the right place for the right reasons. And I think what you're doing is amazing. My wife's been listening to your podcast. She's like, oh my God, this is great. I think it's neat to get this information out to the world. And so I appreciate you for taking the time and the energy to do this and to bring this information to the people.
Well, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
You have a great one too.
Appreciate you guys listening to The Exploding Human. Please check it out on the web at theexplodinghuman.com, YouTube, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman, and The Exploding Human Facebook page. Big thanks to Craig Zuckerman and the fine work he is doing over there at Z-Line Fitness. Check out his books and his YouTube videos. Great resource if you want to heal your body from physical pain or stiffness or any of the things that modern day life brings. Much appreciation. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.